Hi guys, so today we're gonna see how we can build a PowerPoint generator using only OpenAI API and Python. The idea is very simple. We ask ChatGPT to generate a PowerPoint presentation in a structured format, a sort of JSON file, and then we use that JSON file and Python's library PPTX to build the PowerPoint presentation. It's very easy, very automatic. It's a very basic use case, but you can build on top of that to adapt it to your own needs. All right, so let's build. So we're really starting from zero here. So let's check if we have UV installed to do all the package management. Then we start a new UV project. So UV init no workspace, and then UV venv to create a virtual environment, and finally source.venv.bin activate. So with all of that, we are now working on our virtual environment using UV. Very simple. It already creates a lot of stuff here like git ignore and readme. Super easy. Next step is to add the libraries we need. So we're going to do UV add, and then we're going to need basically OpenAI, Python, PPTX, and .env. And then we already have them installed now with UV plus all the dependencies. It's super easy. Next step is to add our OpenAI API key. So if you don't have one, just go to OpenAI's website and create one. Very easy. And we're gonna add it to a .env file right here. So let's do it. And the way you do it properly is by calling it OpenAI API key, and then you add your own. So now that we have our OpenAI API key, next step is to create our chat model that we're going to be using to call OpenAI API. So we can create a new file called models.py, and then in here we're going to create this class that we're going to call chat model. So we're going to need OS, we're going to need .env, and we're going to need OpenAI. So yeah, we load .env that will allow us to access our environment variables from here. Then we instantiate an OpenAI client by calling OpenAI directly, and then we pass our API key. And it's os.getEnv, and then we called it OpenAI API key. Yeah. Now we're going to decide which LLM we're going to use. I'm using O3 Mini, but any other should do, especially reasoning ones. I think they're good for this sort of task. Next, we instantiate our class. So it's called chat model, and it has these init, which takes self, and then model. So every time we start a chat model, we have to define what is the model. So we're going to use the LLM that we created there, and then we're going to say that the model will come from model. All right, now the next function or method that we need for this class is invoke. So you have this invoke method, which we're going to use to call OpenAI API. So it takes self, and then it takes prompt. And then what it does is that it gets a response, which comes from client .chat.completions .create. Now all of these is just OpenAI API syntax. Not much here, and the model is gonna be the model that we instantiated in self. Messages, that's the sort of message history, and then it's a list, and then it's always in this format where you have role, and then it's user, and then the content will be the prompt. So the prompt that we are taking from here. So that means that every time we invoke, we have to give a prompt, and then we're just going to be calling the OpenAI API with this prompt. And now this is very important, we need a structured output. So that means we define a response format, which will be type a JSON object. So JSON object. All right, and then what we return in this case is the response, but ChatGPT's response comes with a lot of stuff, not just the text. Here we only need, so there are even sometimes multiple choices or multiple choices from which we can choose the answer. We're only taking the first one, then the message, and then the content. And that's it for our chat model. It should be good to go now. Yeah, I just realized I forgot this. Now we're good to go. So to test if everything's working well so far, in our main file, we can come here. We can import that chat model that we've just created. So from models, we can import chat model. And then we can test by determining that chat model is equal to, and then we instantiate chat model. And our main, instead of printing just this hello world thing, it can print, for example, the chat model. We invoke, and then in here we pass our prompt. So let's say, hi, how are you? And because we are asking for a JSON object in the response format, that means that ChatGPT expects the prompt to contain the word JSON. So if we try to run this now, it's not going to work. So I can just say answer with a JSON format, for example, because otherwise it's going to throw an error. It's going to say, hey, your prompt needs to contain the word JSON. All right, we can test it now by running python main.py, and it should print the ChatGPT's output. Let's see. Yeah, perfect. See, it answered me with a JSON format, which is not necessarily the format we need, or because we didn't precise, besides the fact that it was a JSON, we didn't precise any schema. So, but this means it works. We are calling OpenAI API. So now we've got our basics, and then next thing is we need a template, PowerPoint template. So yeah, I've got it here. It's called template.pptx, and if you open it, you're gonna see it's just an empty PowerPoint, but it does have some templates. So if you come here on Slide Master, for example, you're gonna see the details on like how a title slide looks like. This is a sort of content slide, and then, you know, it basically it's used to select like the fonts, the colors, all of that styling, so that your PowerPoint that you get in the end is always like on brand to your company or whatever use case you have. It's always on brand. Okay, so now we've got our basics. Next step is to write our prompt. So I call it pre-prompt because we are enriching it later with whatever topic for a presentation you need. So I call this pre-prompt.txt, and then I'm just gonna paste it here, and then we can go through this prompt. So I tell ChatGPT, hey, you're creating a PowerPoint presentation, and your output should follow the following JSON format. And then this basically a dictionary where I give the slides, and slides is a list, and each element in this list is a slide in our presentation. This is just an example so that ChatGPT understands the structure, and I teach it 3 types of slides. So the first one is a title slide, where I give, you know, the type. I say it's a title slide, I give a title, so it's welcome to the presentation, subtitle, and overview. Next slide I give as an example, it's a content. So it also has a title and then a few bullet points in a list. And then the next one is a table, which this is where I teach ChatGPT how to write a table in a way that Python PPTX will be able to read it. So it's just the headers and the rows and the columns. And then if I need another one, as a conclusion, I can use a bullet point. So this just gives an overall structure, and then I explain this is just an example of the format. The actual content of the presentation is up to you. You're free to choose which types of slides to use for each part of the presentation, and answer just with a structured list, nothing else. And here's the topic of the presentation. And then I add this variable topic, which will be inserted by the user. Now the next step is going to the main.py file and trying to use this pre-prompt that we've created. So in here we can ask for the user, we can ask the user for an input. So let's call this input, enter the topic of the presentation. And then we are going to open the pre-prompt file, so we can say with open preprompt.txt. We are opening in read mode as f. Pre-prompt is going to be f.read, so we are just reading this file as a string. Now we take this pre-prompt thing, and then we create a new variable called the prompt, which is our final prompt, which takes pre-prompt and then replaces the variable, which in our case it was topic, with the actual topic. And then we can, instead of invoking with this fake prompt, we can now try and invoke it with our prompt. So if everything went well, we can rerun our code, and it asks me for the input of the presentation. So let's say I want something related to, I don't know, Brazil. So I say the topic of the presentation is Brazil, and then it should print ChatGPT's answer on that, which will be the dictionary with a few slides. There you go. You can see there is a title slide, a content slide, a table with some key values. So that's a basic presentation structure. Now it's from this structure that we're going to be building our PowerPoint presentation using Python's PPTX. Now in terms of coding, I think this will be probably the longest part in the tutorial, and the most dense in terms of Python code. So let's create a file called pptgenerator.py, and then in here we will have a generate presentation function. First we need to import a lot of stuff from PPTX. So let me copy and paste here, and then presentation is going to be our main object. This is where we'll add the slides. Inches allows us to take measures in inches in our PowerPoint presentation. pp-align allows us to manage text alignment, and color, RGB color, allows us to select some colors for our presentation. Then next thing is we add two file paths. So the first one is the output. I just tell it to write it as a PowerPoint.pptx file, and then the template path is this file here, template.pptx. Next we create our function, which will be called generate presentation. These will just take instructions as input. Now instructions is this structured object that we get from ChatGPT. And that's it. That's the only thing this function should take as input. Now for the first details of the presentation, let me copy and paste it here. We are gonna create a presentation from the template. This is optional, but I think it's good to have a template so that your presentation always stays on brand. Slide layouts, I'm just getting the slide master layouts that we have in our template, and I'm setting width and height in terms of inches. So this is just dividing by by a standard number that turns those measures into inches, because that will be easier for us to work with later on. Now, inside of this function, we're going to add a few functions that will help us. So first one is a create title slide. So we're going to be creating one function per type of slide. To be honest, I think at this point that most LLMs could maybe write this code on their own. So that would mean we would not have to write it ourselves. But I am not sure. I haven't tried this yet. When I first tried this method, it was a while ago, and I don't think they were ready back then. Today, I think it might be the case, so it's worth trying if we could get all of these with an LLM. That way, we could just generate the code directly from the LLM and then run it. So our function will take slide data, which is in, we can see these in these examples here. We have a slide type, title, and table data, or like all of the slide data is going to be this thing inside the slide data in the dictionary. So first thing is we say that the slide layout for this one, we get it from slide layouts by name title slide. So because I named my title slide in PowerPoint a title slide, I'm sure I'm getting that layout for this one. Then I say the slide, and then I add the slide from this layout to my presentation slides. And then I set the text and the subtitle. So I set title and subtitle using a title and the placeholders we have for title and subtitle. Now we can create a content slide. So the title slide is more basic, it's just title and subtitle. We're gonna see now a content slide. So it's the same thing, it takes slide data, we select a slide layout, which is a different one. It's like, it's got title and content. We add it, we add its title, and then we add a text frame, and we add some bullet points to for each of the bullet points we have, we add a sort of new paragraph here. Now the most complex slide we need to create is the table slide, so let's go through it. Now the table slide it also takes slide data. This part is basically the same for every slide. This is where it gets a bit trickier. We set the number of rows and columns based on the table data, and this is where we need inches. It's because the size of the slide might vary, the size of the table might vary. So I think it's good to set up, the position and the width and the height in terms of the slide measure. So we take the slide dimensions, and then we set a sort of ratio, which I think it's a good ratio for a table to be positioned in a slide. And then we add this table to the slide. And then for each row in the table data, we basically add it, we format it using a bold and all of these things. We align it, and then we set some color, and that's because the basic text was set to white, and also the background, so it was looking a bit weird, so I wanted to have some separate colors for our tables. This is basically formatting the table. Maybe it could have been handled directly in the template. So yeah, that's it. And now, outside of this create table function, we can generate the slides. So for each slide in our instructions, I get the slide type. If it's a title, I call my title function. If it's a content slide, I use my create content slide function, and same for table. And that's it. You just go over the slides on a loop, and then you create them using the right function. It always adds like a first empty slide from the template, so I just remove it, and then I save it on my output file path. Now in our main file, we're gonna sort of pipeline the whole thing together. Right now we have our instructions that we've just been printing. We're gonna need some new stuff here, so we're gonna need our PPT generator generate presentation function. We're also going to need AST. This function allows us to use this library, allows us to use something called literal eval, which evaluates a string literally. So because the ChatGPT answer is still a string, so I need to convert it to a dictionary, and this is what allows me to do that. After I have my prompt, instead of printing this, I can just say these are the instructions, and then I'm gonna pass these instructions into generate presentation. Now if everything works well, we should be able to run our file. It's gonna ask us for the presentation topic. Let's say it's Brazil again, and in a few seconds maybe, and then the thing that takes the longest is the LLM response. The PowerPoint thing should be quick. Okay, so we've got an error here, and it's because I didn't use AST. I got the instructions. Now the thing is that instead of giving those instructions directly to generate presentation, I should have used literal eval, and that will turn this string into a dictionary that can now be used. So if we try again, the LLM calling takes a few seconds, and then the PowerPoint creation is very quick. So we can see we got a PowerPoint file now that was created. Let's see how it looks. So we've got 5 slides. We've got like this title slide. We've got an overview. It's very simple. Some cultural stuff. They've created a table with some indicators, population and things like that, using the format that we set, and a conclusion. It's very simple. I think if you want to make it more complex and richer in terms of information, you should probably split some of the content creation. So you could, for example, ask ChatGPT first to write a sort of summary about Brazil or whatever your topic is. So first send a prompt with just, hey, write a long summary about this topic, and then because then it's gonna develop some more information, and then you send that to the LLM again and ask it, hey, now turn these into a PowerPoint following this structure. And then I think in that way it's going to be richer in terms of information. But this was just an example to show how this works, and feel free to enrich it by yourself. And I hope you like it, and let's keep on building.